sector is one of our greatest opportunities, with over 250 million students, a vast network of institutions, and probably the world's youngest workforce. Our collective future depends on how well we align learning with employability, global mobility, and industry readiness. The global landscape is transforming faster than ever as Industry 5.0, AI, and advanced digitization reshape how we live and work. We must ensure our institutions and our people stay ahead of the curve. The future belongs to those who can combat smart technology with strong human values, building an education system that is innovative, inclusive, and future-proof. It is essential that our vice chancellors and institutional leaders do not just understand AI's potential, but actively lead its responsible and strategic integration into the frameworks. AI is no longer just for computer scientists. It must become part of every discipline, whether fine arts, social sciences, business, or healthcare. Globally, AI is transforming real lives and real institutions, from personalizing learning pathways, supporting visually impaired learners, and enabling dynamic assessments to help educators design more adaptive curriculum. In leadership and operations too, AI is driving smart decisions and great efficiency. A safe example comes from universities around the world where AI-powered tools have streamlined student services and routine tasks, freeing up precious time for the faculty to focus on teaching, mentoring, and research. This transformation must always be guided by a balanced, human-centric approach. We must prepare our educators and students to see AI as an enabler, never a substitute for values, creativity, and human connection that define a greater education. As India's apex chamber, ASSOCHAM has long championed this vision, bridging industry and academia, driving progressive policy, and creating platforms like Edumeet to turn ideas into action. From enabling discussions on global education mobility to advanced next generation skilling, we are deeply committed to preparing India's education framework for a changing world. I am pleased that today we also unveiled the ASSOCHAM EY Knowledge Report, offering practical insights and recommendations for institutions, policymakers, and industry leaders to strengthen India's position as a trusted global hub for education and future-ready skills. Looking ahead, the next 2 decades will define how our campuses connect with the world. India must aspire not just to send students abroad, but to become a trusted global hub for education and research, attracting talent, partnerships, and ideas from every corner of the world. We must build universities that lead cutting-edge research, nurture entrepreneurship, and forge deep collaborations across borders, so that by 2047 our classrooms are global gateways and our graduates are not just job seekers but job creators, innovators, and global citizens. Our plenary session today will tackle the questions that matter. How do we prepare our youth for global opportunities and meaningful careers? How do we enable AI as a catalyst in teaching, governance, and campus operations? How do we ensure our skilling system matches the pace and demands of Industry 5.0? The future of education must be defined by more than degrees. It must empower every learner to succeed in an AI-powered, interconnected world while staying rooted in our timeless values. Together, let us build an education and skilling ecosystem that fuels a resilient, innovative, and globally respected Viksit Bharat. Once again, I welcome you all and look forward to the ideas, discussions and actions that will move us forward together. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Which I would suggest to everybody is probably the most important of any particular policy issue we want to choose to discuss. So it's my congratulations to ASSOCHAM for having organised this and for having organised it for the last 9 years. This probably means that next year will be an even bigger and better celebration of 10 years. And hopefully I'll still be here to be part of it. So I think my first challenge, as I say for any of these kind of events, is, what is it you want to get out of being here today? What is your objective of this meeting? And how are you going to measure the success of this annual gathering? And I really suggest that you think about that in your discussions and deliberations today, because every workshop, every conference, every round table, they're only as good as what change they bring 3, 6 months later, a year, 2 years, 5 years. So I think that's a really, really important point. As for the topic in hand, I think the previous speaker, Mr. Singh, gave me a very good introduction in his contribution. Thank you very much, sir. And I did indeed come with a speech that did address very much of where the UK is coming from in attracting talent and mobility. But actually, listening to the other speakers, from Mr. Joshi's opening, brilliant context setting of what this is all about, all the way through to, we had from Professor Shah, the challenge of attracting the best to the classrooms. Huge challenge, and definitely not unique to India. We have as much challenge with this in the UK. My son studies physics at Durham, and yet so many people that decide to even go into that education route in the UK and become physics teachers last 1, 2, 3 years because it's so hard, and they're picked off by industry and disappear. It's a real challenge, and the government, my government, have to incentivize on things like that. So it's a challenge everywhere, really important. I always love listening to Professor Roy Chowdhury. She speaks so beautifully. I could listen to her for hours, and today she spoke on a number of topics that are really close to my heart. But above all of them, let the children decide is something that is also my mantra. Some of you know I'm married to an Asian wife. My wife actually is Vietnamese, and I think Mr. Agral's talked about Vietnamese as a potential competitor for India when it comes to getting their education offer right and producing the best and achieving their potential. But, Asian wives of that generation, I'll tell you a very brief story before I get into the detail of what I want to say. It's very similar. You mentioned about everybody wanting to be a doctor, and it relates to Dr. Roy Chowdhury's, Professor Roy Chowdhury's comment about letting children decide. When you were younger, everybody did want to be a doctor in India or an engineer, and that is because their parents wanted them to be. When my son was born, in 2005, my wife said, "Oh, he's going to be a doctor." It's the first thing she said. And for the next 4 years, she only brought in doctor-related toys. And I'm serious. And I was like, you can't be like this. The boy needs to do whatever he wants to do, and he never had any interest. I used to buy him other toys. He liked cooking, so I brought him a mini kitchen, and he loved it. And she was very cross with me. And then I took him on Emirates Airbus, and he said, "Oh, I want to be a pilot." And she was furious because I said, "Yeah, that's great, you should, you can." She was so angry. She said, how can you encourage him to be a pilot? What a terrible job. You only get so high in the sky, but then where do you go? I said, no. You have to encourage the boy. I encouraged him. I said, he'll change his mind in a week. He didn't. Then I said, he'll change his mind in a year. He didn't. Then, when he was about 8, 4 years later, he wrote a poem about what he wanted to be when he grew up, and it was all about being a pilot. And he won 2nd place in the national UK poetry writing competition in the UK. Then she was very proud and told everybody he wants to be a pilot and how wonderful he is. Then when he was 11, he said, oh, Dad, I don't know how to tell Mum, but I don't want to be a pilot anymore. I want to be a CEO. I said, why do you want to be a CEO? He said, oh, Dad, you know, CEOs will earn a lot more money than pilots, and I want to be rich. I said, fine, son, if that's your wish. So he says, I've just done some research. I know I have to study economics. I said, why do you have to study economics, boy? He says, 90% of CEOs in the top 400 companies in the world have studied economics, so I have to do that. I said, fine. And he studied economics with passion until he was 18. And he got A stars in every one of his exams. He did very well. He was a very clever boy. And then he applied for 5 UK universities and didn't get what he wanted in any of them. And so he went into the clearing and he got offered a chance to study physics. He said, economics was always a fake science. I'm going to do physics and I'm going to become a banker. And my point for telling you this is, for young people, their interests, their passions, they change over time, and definitely this boy is one living example. The other one, he wants to be a professional footballer, and he's in a training school at the moment somewhere in Vietnam with my wife. Anyway, I digress a bit, but I just thought that story beautifully matched both Ma'am's comments and also yours, sir, as you made your speeches. The UK's always been a preferred destination for Indian students. And that bond, I feel, has never really been stronger than now. And so let me just highlight a few aspects of what the UK offers Indian students and young professionals today. Some of my comments are about education, but some are more about opportunities of mobility, and I think mobility is a really, really important issue, and for those that can achieve it. Some people go and study in the UK, of course. We have something like 130, 140,000 students visas issued last year, according to some figures I saw, but I haven't got the exact number with me. Around that number, don't quote.